The Beginner's Guide to Friendship Bracelets is a collection of photo tutorials for beginners that will take you all the way from the basics to the more advanced stuff. It is now available for purchase worldwide anywhere you typically buy books, and there is also a direct link in the description. Hello, my name is Masha and today I'm going to teach you how to make this beautiful heart chain bracelet. I actually was not planning on making a tutorial for this bracelet, but then I noticed this pattern and I was like, my nails match that. I should make a tutorial on it. So that's where this came from. I just think it's really cute that it matches my nails. And of course I couldn't resist, I couldn't just make one, so there is two of them. This is a gorgeous pattern. It's very similar to the daisy chain bracelet for which I made a tutorial a while ago. I'll leave that tutorial linked in the card and in the description. It's also very similar to the ladybug chain bracelet for which I also have a tutorial, which will also be linked in the card and in the description. Any kind of chain bracelets are going to be very similar just because, you know, they're made in a similar way. I wouldn't say that this is a beginner tutorial though. If you are a beginner, I would recommend starting with a chevron, watching any of my beginner tutorials, which will be in a separate playlist. I'll have that linked. This is a little bit more advanced just because it's a more of an advanced technique. And going into this tutorial, I do expect that you know how to make the basic knots, which will also be referenced in a separate tutorial in the description. But all that being said, if you feel like you're ready to make these gorgeous bracelets, then let's get into it. You're going to need two colors for this bracelet. Cut one string for the color of the heart, make that about 2 meters in length, and cut two strings of the other color. One of those strings should also be about 2 meters in length, but the other one should be about 10 centimeters longer, so make it about 2 meters and 10 centimeters. That's because we're going to be making the loop with it, so we want it to be extra long. Fold your strings in half, and then unfold them and tape them or secure them somehow else to your workspace at that halfway point. So I've taped my strings to my workspace and I'm ready to start the loop. I have a separate tutorial for loops, which will be linked in the card and in the description, which goes in depth about the topic, but I will also be showing you here, just in less detail. A good rule of thumb for any kind of chain bracelet is that the size of the chain and the size of the loop at the top are customizable. If you want to make them a little longer, you can. If you want to make them a little smaller, you can. I'm going to be going with 8 knots for in between the hearts. And in order for me to figure out how long my loop should be, I need to double that and add 1. So 8 by 2 is 16, plus 1 is 17. The reason you're doing that is because obviously to make a loop, you're kind of doing 2 of the sides at the same time, which is why you double them. And then you add 1 to be at the top, basically, kind of in the middle between the two parts. So if I want to make 8 at the sides, I need to make 17 at the top. If you're making 6 on the sides, you'll do 13 at the top. If you're making 10 at the sides, you'll make 21 at the top. So it is customizable, but again, double it and add 1 for the loop. So I'm making 17, as I said. So I'm making 17 forward-backward knots with this pink string onto both of these strings at the same time. And again, a tutorial for loops is linked if you want more detail as to how to make them in general. Once you have made your loop, fold your loop and secure it back to your workspace. You can't really see because it's the same color, but I've put strings into my loop and I've taped the strings down so I can kind of pull on it and it won't go anywhere. We are ready to make our first heart. We're going to start with the 2 red strings. The one on the right is going to make a backward knot onto the one on the left. We're going to do this very carefully because we're just connecting the 2 halves of our loop. We're then going to bring in another pink string from the right side, and our red string is going to do a backward knot onto that. This might be a bit awkward because we're kind of pulling the string from the opposite side, so just readjust where necessary. Then we've got the 2 pink strings from the left side, and our red string is going to do a backward knot onto one of them and a backward forward knot onto the other. Now our other red string is going to do a forward backward knot onto the pink string to the right of it. Then a backward knot and a backward forward knot. The 2 pink strings on the edge do a knot between them. I'm making a backward knot here. And then the red string, which is closest to the right side, is going to do a forward knot and a forward backward knot. Then our other red string, and then this red string is going to make 3 forward knots, 2 on pink strings and 1 on the other red string. The only thing is, right before I make a forward knot onto the other red string, I'm actually going to retighten that forward-backward knot that we did with it, because by the time that I came back to it, it kind of started to untie itself. We're going to separate our strings in half like so. On this side, we've got 3 pink strings. On this side, we've got 2 of the red strings and 1 pink string. And we're going to do the separators. So I did 17 knots for the top. I counted that I wanted to do 8 on the sides, but we're actually going to do 8 on the left side and 6 on the right side. That's because this takes up a little bit more space on the right side than it does on the left. So on the left side, I'm going to grab this pink string and I'm going to make 6 backward forward knots onto the 2 red strings. And then on the left side, I'm going to take the outermost string and I'm going to make 8 forward backward knots onto the 2 pink strings. And there we go. Despite the fact that we did 2 more on the left side, they've evened out. That's because, again, the heart takes up a little bit more space on the right side than it does on the left. We're ready to make the heart again. It's going to be nearly identical to the one that we did at the top, but obviously because we did the loop, the 2 red strings were on opposite sides. Now they're on the same side, so it's going to be a little bit easier for us to do it, actually. We don't have to do that weird switching thing with the pink string. So I'm going to show it to you one more time, even though it's pretty much the same thing, just because the string order changed. We make a backward knot between the 2 red strings. Then the string that's pointed to the left is going to make 2 more backward knots and a backward forward knot along these 3 pink strings. Then this red string does a forward backward knot onto the edge, followed by a backward knot and a backward forward knot. The 2 pink strings on the right edge do a knot between them. I'm making a backward knot. Then this red string does a forward knot and a forward backward knot. And finally, the red string on the left does 3 forward knots, finishing with that red string here. And there you go. These separators might need adjusting. The entire bracelet might need adjusting as you're going through it. So just kind of push it out a little bit with your fingers, have a little fiddle, have a little play. And don't forget to bring the red string back to the right side. You're ready to make your separators again. Continue making these steps over and over again until the bracelet reaches the length that you want. I'm going to go do that and then I'm going to come back and explain how to finish this bracelet. Alright, so I've just made the last heart of my bracelet and I've made the 2 parts coming out of it. Now I want to connect the 2 halves and finish in sort of another loop, I guess, to mirror the way that we started. So we're going to take the outermost strings, the ones that we did the knots with. One on the left is going to do half of a forward knot, so just half to bring it into the center, but we're not going to complete that forward knot. Same thing on the left side, it's going to do a half of a backward knot, just the half. Now the 2 strings are pointed in the center, and we can do a knot between them. So I'm just going to do a forward knot, but you can do any kind of knot since they're the same color. And you're going to do this very carefully since you're connecting 2 halves of the bracelet. And that's it. You can now kind of pull it apart a little bit, make it into that loop shape. Might be a bit easier once it's not tied to my desk, but you can now make the ties however you want. I think I'm going to make 2 braided ties because I think I have too few strings to do properly twisted ties. But that's it, and I'll see you once I finish my bracelet. And this is how the bracelet turns out. I think that this is an absolutely gorgeous bracelet and I couldn't resist. I made 2 of them in the matching color scheme, but I thought it would be cool to see how it would look if I flipped the colors. So I did. This bracelet really doesn't take that long to make. I did 2 of these in one evening. I was listening to an audiobook and I just did them. It's the very rare occasion where I start filming a tutorial and finish filming a tutorial on the same day. So there you go. But I hope you enjoyed this bracelet. If you end up making a bracelet based on my tutorial, please send me photos of it. I absolutely love that. You can do that on Instagram and also on Discord. The link to my server is in the description. My book, The Beginner's Guide to Friendship Bracelets, is now out. You can buy it anywhere you typically buy books, and there's also a direct link in the description. It's also available worldwide, and my publisher can help you figure out how to get it delivered to your country. So if you want to, you can reach out to them by the link in the description. Before I go, I also want to give a special shout out to my patrons and especially my top supporters. It is with their support that I'm able to create videos on this channel, so I really appreciate their support. If you also want to become a patron and support the work that I do here, the link to that is in the description. But in any case, thank you guys so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed today's video, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye!